you know, what the things that I probably thought this year was going to be about, at what I assumed and what I had hoped for them to be about, and then what actually took place. But there's a few questions that I'm going to pose to myself, which I'll have you pose to you as well. And these are the 4 questions. What did you learn? What did you struggle with? What have you noticed shift? And what are you taking with you? You know, everything that you have learned, everything that you have struggled with, and as a result, come through in where you have shifted. Like, what are you going to be taking with you into the next phase of your life, into, you know, the next however long you've got left on the planet? Because not every lesson that we learn, or not every teaching that has landed, or every shift that we make, we don't have to take it all. We can take it all, or we can take a few and just bite size it, or just simply by choice take what we want to take. But for me, I'll answer these 4 questions. What did I learn? I learned that my little human egoic self is going to try and control all the outcomes in my life, and want things to come out and be a certain way, happen in a certain way. And, you know, when I latch on to that control, what I learned is when I latch onto that control, I struggle and I suffer. And, I become anxious because I want to be in control, you know. And with the work that I have been doing on myself, for the last 15 years, you know, more and more and more, it's revealing to me that there is a huge force out there that speaks to a force in us. And to try and control that, it's just got nothing on it, you know. To try and wrestle with that, that ain't going to end very well. I saw a really cool video actually on Instagram where this is what control looks like, and it was a guy sweeping sand that was being pushed up to shore by the ocean, and he's frantically sweeping it back into into the ocean. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what it looks like. You're trying to control everything when there's this giant oceanic force. It's just like, nice try. And why did I learn that? I learned that because at the beginning of this year, my theme and my word was flourish. At the beginning of every year, that's what I do. I set up a theme. And so in my little self, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to flourish, and I'm going to flourish now, and I'm going to flourish today. You know, Jan 1st, 2022, I am flourishing from the get-go. I had my idea of what flourish would look like, and the force, that great force, said, okay, darling, you want to flourish, we got to prune back a few things. Like a rose takes time to bloom. In order for it to bloom, you got to prune. And when I was in this pruning phase, firstly, I didn't acknowledge that I was in a pruning phase. I'm like, why does it feel like I am letting go of everything that helps me feel safe? You know, my masculinity was getting pruned back so my feminine could flourish. The way that I was working was getting pruned back so the way that I wanted to live my life and work could flourish. And they were 2 really big pieces for me. The way that I would kind of just charge through things and push through things with the force that, the human force that I have, was wanting to be pruned back so I could do things with and flourish with greater ease. and with more intent and potency. And that's also what I struggled with. That's the second question. What did you struggle with? I struggled with that. I really struggled with letting the control aspect of my masculinity just go, hey, settle. I struggled with allowing my femininity to have say in my life again, and to have presence in my life again, and dress even a little more feminine, and feel pretty and sexy and beautiful, and acknowledge that, and wearing skirts and whatever, because I had stories. I learned that I had really strong stories about the feminine, that it's not safe to be feminine, it's weak to be feminine, you get taken advantage of when you're the feminine, and when you wear dresses, like it's you're just asking for trouble, so just kind of be like the cool tomboy style, like cat. So I've really struggled with letting the masculine that has kept me safe, but tired. It's kept me safe, but really fucking tired. I struggled with letting that settle, not go, because we all need our healthy masculine, but I had a very toxic control, go, push, protect style masculine that, got a lot of shit done, but was it effective? Was it efficient? Not really. It just sort of kept me busy, and it kept me out of the things that I actually wanted, which was more space and more time and more, more space to be able to be creative and rest and enjoy different aspects that brought me joy, So that's what I struggled with a lot this year. And I noticed, I guess, what have I noticed shift? That's the third question. I guess what I noticed shift was this softness that I allowed back in, allowing myself to be softer, allowing myself to be seen in more feminine ways, and to bring in my feminine into my relationship, into my step parenting, into my work and the way that I work and the way that I coach even. And weirdly enough, like the shift that I noticed was, that's like true wealth. Still feels like true wealth. To have greater balance in my world, and not just see from that control, not toxic masculine, but hyperactive, I'd say. That success isn't just this one dimension that I guess I sort of was viewing it as. I knew it wasn't that, but it just kept, reminding me, yes it is. It kept reminding me, yes it is, but this other part of me was like, no, it's not. So to shift from that version of success to my version, my true version, my real version, and what that looks like for me, and what that feels like for me, and how I go about creating that's been the real shift. To realize that I don't have to flog myself in order to create wealth. That, interestingly enough, with more time and space, and when I use it well, not just being on my phone and, watching fucking TV shows or wasting time, but using that time and space to go and be creative, to go and dance, to go and volunteer at Edgar's Mission, my favorite animal sanctuary on the planet. Which I have done, by the way. Because I've made more space, I'm doing more of the things that I love. I am going to dancing. I have become a volunteer there, and these things bring me joy. And with that, I actually get more ideas and more flow comes into my life and opportunities come, because legitimately my vibration is better. It's not exhausted and just like, you know. What I've also seen though is, and a shift that I can see, and what I'll be taking with me is, which is the final question, is that it's not now that I want to, like, previously I was always busy and always doing, and I don't want to be in a place of just always being, because that can be the collapsed feminine and the damsel in distress feminine of, like, not sort of doing anything. And so that's not how I want to be, and that's not how I want to move forward. It's like this beautiful marriage, how I see it, of the masculine and the feminine. This is sort of what I say to my clients when I put it in a visual perspective. Imagine a marriage where, if there was the, typical heterosexual marriage, where there was the man who was very controlling of the woman. The woman had all these ideas and all these, desires and ways about, doing life. And the masculine said, no, this is the way, this is what we're doing, controlling, dominant, dismissive. That's an unhealthy masculine, and that's a dismissed feminine, where we don't listen, that masculine doesn't listen. But then also the other way, when it's an unhealthy feminine, is when we've almost got too much time on our hands, and we can be toxic and manipulative, and too much time on our hands, so too much time to think, and, sort of like warping people, because you've got nothing to do, you're bored. So you kind of create shit. And then if you imagine that in a marriage, the man's like, I'm just going to fucking work because I don't want to be around this. And so then that leaves more time for the feminine to be, or the mum, that mother figure. So you can imagine if that's going on inside of you. And I guess, this year, what I've really learned is to have a healthy marriage of the masculine and the feminine inside of me, not in me and Steve, inside of myself. Which then assists in having a better relationship with Steve and with work and with other people in my world. So that's what I'm taking with me. I'm taking the healthy relationship of these two parts of myself forward, and ensuring that both of them are communicating and listening to one another, and honoring one another, respecting one another. And believe me, there are times when they won't. There are times where one will take over the other, and like the masculine will want to get shit done, but the feminine's being too like, or the masculine's too busy getting shit done and the feminine's being unheard because she can see what could be done in different ways. So that's what I'm going to be taking forward with me, that these two healthy parts of myself, and continue to keep them healthy and alive, and open dialogue, because I've really noticed a shift in the way that I step parent, the way that I view the girls, the way that Steve and I are together, and the way that I approach my work. It's like there are times to rest, cat, but there are also times to work, cat. It's not one or the other. And that's been my takeaways for this year. And what is it, really fundamentally, what has it taught me? It's like I said, it's taught me that my little self, my little human ego self, it may think it has everything in control, but there's this beautiful force out there that just says, hey, I know where we're going. I know where you want to go. And I know where you think you want to go. But let me show you where you need to go. Let me show you where you need to go. Because when you go there, when you experience that, some beautiful things can transpire for you, which will surpass what your little human egoic self will be able to come up with, So as a result, I have flourished, but I have felt literally for 11 months of this year, I have been pruning It has literally only felt like on December 1st where I've noticed this shift take place internally. And things are flourishing in my business, in my online community. Like true flourishment is actually taking place. But just even more than that, like I said, the flourish that has really been the basis of that is the reunitedness of my healthy masculine and healthy feminine, which is not what I thought would take place. So I'm going to leave these 4 questions with you to ponder over the next couple of weeks as we wrap up this year. What have you learned? And as a result, what have you struggled with from what you've learned? What has shifted? What have you noticed that has shifted in your life? And what will you be taking forward with you?